Hi, Year 4, welcome back. Now, this last video in the series is about fast changes to the Earth's surface, and it might be a big video, so I apologise in advance if it goes a bit too long. Now, let's have a talk about the Pacific Ring of Fire. So, more volcanoes and earthquakes occur here in the Pacific Ring of Fire than any other place on Earth. And here is a picture of where the Ring of Fire is. See this all around here? There's lots of volcanic and earthquake activity here. This ribbon of land is the land and water, I should say, is home to about 75% of the world's volcanoes and 80% of the world's earthquakes happen here. The Ring of Fire is a result of plate tectonics moving, and like I said earlier in the last video, the Pacific plate is the biggest one and it goes all the way here around that zone. Sometimes the plates collide, move apart or slide next to each other, which causes earthquakes, volcanoes and other seismic activities. Now let's have a look at, oops, did I skip one? Hang on, I'm a bit lost here. Okay, oh yeah, sorry, we're doing volcanoes next. So here we go, volcanoes. Now this slide might take a little while because I'm going to go over a few of the most noteworthy volcanoes on our planet. Now the first 5 volcanoes are ones that are currently erupting right now. The first one is Mount Erebus. Now Mount Erebus is actually in Antarctica, down here. It's been erupting since it was discovered about 50 years ago, and scientists think it's been erupting continuously for a lot longer than that. Just because something's erupting doesn't mean it's a violent eruption. It can be a slow-moving eruption. Now, we've also got Stromboli, which is in Italy. And Stromboli's been erupting constantly for quite a while as well. As you can see in the picture down the bottom, Stromboli's quite often has a cloud above it of the volcanic eruption that's currently going on. Now our next one, Kilauea, I'm quite sure you have heard a lot about in the news recently in Hawaii. Now Hawaii is not actually sitting on a plate boundary, but it is sitting above a hotspot. And a hotspot is an area where there is a weak floor to the Earth's crust, and there's a magma pool sitting underneath that that's constantly pushing to the surface. Kilauea has been erupting constantly. Lots of lava has been flowing across the mountain, across the island and into the sea. Kirishima is in Japan, and Kirishima is also currently erupting. As is Fernanda on the Galapagos Islands. Now these 5 volcanoes are 5 that are currently erupting, but there are others that are erupting as well. Now we're going to go through some of the biggest ones that have happened in recent history. The most recent big one that I can think of is this one that I don't know how to say. It's in Iceland and it was from 2010, and I'll try and say it. I think it's Jökull, something like that, and you might have a go and do better than I did. Now it's up here in Iceland, and it's where plates go right through Iceland, and they're always constantly moving. Lots of volcanic activity happens up there, and this eruption in 2010 caused the worst air traffic disruption since World War II. There was so much ash in the sky that all flights in this area were cancelled for a long time. It's quite a disaster for air traffic and aeroplanes. Now, Mount Pinatubo is in the Philippines, and in 1991 it erupted quite violently, and it dropped global temperatures and depleted the ozone layer. Now, it was actually a deadly volcano that killed about 850 people. Mount St. Helens in Washington in America erupted in 1980 quite violently and Didn't kill a huge amount of people because they were forewarned and were able to escape, but being in Washington, it caused a huge economical disaster for the country. Now, Nova Rupta is in the Alaskan Peninsula, right up there on the top of that Pacific plate. And Nova Rupta was the largest eruption of the 20th century. So the last 100 years, it was the largest one. Now, in 1902, in the French island of Martinique, there was, I'm just looking at my notes, which is why I'm looking down, it was the deadliest eruption of the 20th century. So Nova Rupta was the biggest, but Mount Pelée was the deadliest, killing 33,000 people. And it was it's the greatest natural disaster in the history of France. In 1883 was the massive eruption of Krakatoa, and Krakatoa produced the largest or the loudest sound ever, which we call a sonic boom. Very, very loud, was heard up to 5,000 kilometers away. It was that loud. And Krakatoa exploded with such force that it completely broke apart the island. And what you can see down here, I better move my picture actually. Where's my mouse? I've lost my mouse. Where are you, mouse? Oh, there you are. I'll move my picture out of the way. So you can see now Krakatoa was here. This whole area was Krakatoa, and it blew that island right out of the water. It was that violent. But in 1928, about 50 years afterwards, this little tiny island started to emerge right where Krakatoa was, and that's because the volcano is still constantly erupting under the ocean, and it's formed itself a new little island. And this little one here, this little tiny one, looks small. It's called Anuak Krakatoa, which means child of Krakatoa. Next, we have Mount Tambora, also in Indonesia. Now, Tambora, I should also mention that Krakatoa was quite deadly. 36,000 people were killed. But Mount Tambora was the largest and deadliest volcano in recorded history, killing 92,000 people. And it caused what is known as the year without a summer. It blocked out the sun. It was very cold. Now, those are in recent history, but probably one of the most famous volcanoes, Mount Vesuvius. Now, Mount Vesuvius erupted way back in 79 Common Era, but Vesuvius was in Italy, in the Bay of Naples. Have I put that? No, there we go. There's our picture. So you can see Vesuvius today. There's the Bay of Naples in the background. Now, all of these people are sitting in an area that may one day be have a massive eruption again. But volcanoes cause really wonderful soil, and that soil is fertile for crops and growing grapes and making wine. So that's why a lot of people still live around this volcano. It has erupted as recently as 1944, and there were a few civilians that were killed in that small eruption as well, but most people were evacuated. It killed about 30,000 people instantly and perfectly preserved their bodies under a thick layer of volcanic ash. So you can go to Pompeii now and you can visit the ruins from this volcano and see exactly how people lived back then and how they died. Now, Cotopaxi is in Ecuador, and it's probably known as one of the most active volcanoes in the world. And even though it's extremely active and it erupts often, it's also one of explorers' best mountains for rock climbing, and there's quite often people who are climbing and adventuring all over that mountain despite the danger. Now, the next one is the Yellowstone Caldera. Now, that is over a hotspot in I forgot to write it down. I will find out where that's from in just a moment. It's not on a plate boundary, but it is over a hotspot, and it's currently, I think it's believed to be the biggest supervolcano on the planet. It has had 3 epic eruptions in history that we know of. The first one was 2.1 million years ago, the next 1.2 million years ago, and the last known massive eruption was 640,000 years ago. So history says that maybe it might be gearing up to a new eruption soon, but scientists don't think it's going to happen in our lifetimes, or maybe the next lifetime of the next generation. But even though it's not likely to erupt just yet, it is a site of constant geothermal activity. There's geysers and hot springs and thermal pools and all sorts of wonderful places to go and visit, and it's certainly on my bucket list to get to that area. Oh my gosh, we're already up to 11 minutes. This is the longest video. So I'm going to quickly move on to earthquakes. Now, earthquakes are pretty epic. Cause lots of damage. So you can see a before and after there. That was, I think, in Italy, if I remember correctly. They can leave you homeless and stranded, like these 3 cows that were left stranded in New Zealand. They can also, if they're undersea, can cause massive tsunamis. So this is the site of Banda Aceh in Indonesia after the Boxing Day tsunamis, where this beautiful idyllic beach holiday area was completely decimated, and so many people were killed, and millions more lost their homes. Before I won't talk bang on a lot about earthquakes. I'm just going to show you a very quick YouTube video so you can see where all of the earthquake activity has occurred in the last, I think, 15 years. Let's just quickly, come on. Here we are. I'm going to play this video on fast forward so we can zip through it super fast. But it's really interesting to see all these volcanoes and where they're happening. Maybe I should have loaded this up first. I'm just going to pause until it's ready. Okay, I'm ready to go now. So I will unpause this. Alright, so this is the last 15 years and it's on fast forward. So all of those little dots are volcanic. Whoa, that was a big one over there. Alright, so we'll see some pretty big ones happening. Whoa, big one up here. It's constant volcanic activity, isn't there? Some big ones here. Whoa, Japan. Another big one up here. Big one coming up. Oh, that's the Boxing Day tsunami one. That's so big. That is terrible. Oh, over here. Big one. Constantly going. Look at that. Wild. I hope you're as fascinated by this as I am. I think it's really fascinating. Here's a big one. Oh, another big one over here in Indonesia. Over here. Can you see how these are all occurring over these plates? And all the way around the Ring of Fire, around the Pacific Plate. And you can also see these little ones are on the boundaries of the other plates going around. So there's evidence of, or proof that this is where this volcanic eruption happens. Up here is Iceland, lots of volcanoes happening up there, not so much earthquakes, but it still occurs. Alright, this is where this mid-Atlantic ridge is, right here between Africa and South America, where our ocean is getting wider. Oh my lord, look at that. Enormous. Imagine living in one of these areas. Where there's constant volcanic activity. Especially this part, look how heavy that is. Another big one up here. Still going. Whoa, look at that. That's up until 2015. That is a lot of earthquakes. That's crazy. And there's the big ones. And there's the super big ones. Wow. There with the magnitude of 8 and above. That's crazy. All right, I think that is the end of this super long epic video. Oops, that's not even the right spot. There we are. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, holy moly, this is super long. I suggest playing this one in sections. All right, constructive and destructive forces. Constructive forces are those that affect the Earth's surface by building it up while forming new crust and landforms like mountains, islands, deltas, and sand dunes. Destructive forces affect the Earth's surface by breaking down landforms to form new ones. Sometimes an event can be destructive and constructive, like a volcano. While the volcano eruption can break down land, the lava flow can build land up. Earthquakes, volcanoes, landslides are examples of constructive and destructive forces that are fast changes to the Earth's surface, while weathering, erosion and deposition are slow changes that can take millions and millions of years. And that really is the end of this epic video. See you later. Bye.